So much for having me.
So I'm going to start with something that's been in the news. I don't have to tell you that you made some comments recently that are generating a lot of controversy. And I want to remind the audience and our viewers of what you had said. You were talking about people here in small towns in Pennsylvania suffering economic hardship. And you said, quote, "It's not surprising they get bitter, they cling to guns or religion or antipathy to people who aren't like them." And to a lot of the religious leaders in this room, to a lot of decent, hardworking people out there, it may have come across as you attacking their values or their religion, suggesting that people are clinging to religion.
Well, first of all, Scripture talks about clinging to what's good. And so it's very important. My words may have been clumsy, which happens surprisingly often on a presidential campaign. But this is something that I've talked about before, I've talked about in my own life, which is that religion is a bulwark, a foundation when other things aren't going well. That's true in my own life, through trials and tribulations. And so what I was referring to was in no way demeaning a faith that I myself embrace. What I was saying is that when economic hardship hits in these communities, what people have is they've got family, they've got their faith, they've got the traditions that have been passed on to them from generation to generation. Those aren't bad things. That's what they have left. And unfortunately, what people have become bitter about, and oftentimes have told me about as I traveled through not just Pennsylvania, but I was referring to states all across the Midwest, including my home state, is any confidence that the government is listening to them. They don't think that government's listening to them. So I think it is very important to understand it, and I think it's unfortunate that in the political process, presidential campaigns, that people have been trying to misconstrue my words. To understand that I am a devout Christian, that I started my work working with churches in the shadow of steel plants that had closed on the south side of Chicago, that nobody in the presidential campaign on the Democratic side in recent memory has done more to reach out to the church and talk about what are our obligations religiously in terms of doing good works, and how does that inform our politics. So I think that this is an example of frankly, how the political debate can distract us from what is really at issue, and that is how are we going to create a just and fair society where people are getting a fair shake. And that's why I'm running this campaign.
Hillary Clinton, who was just here, said you're being elitist.
Well, that is, I think, a good example of what happens on the presidential campaign, is that we try to tear each other down instead of lifting the country up. But the notion that somebody like myself, who has been working in churches since I got out of college, and whose entire trajectory, not just during this campaign, but long before, has been to talk about how Democrats need to get in church, reach out to evangelicals, link faith with the work that we do. The notion that somehow I'm standing above that, when that's essentially describes much of what I've been doing over the last 20 years, doesn't make much sense.
Senator, do you believe that God intervenes in history and rewards or punishes people or nations in real time for their behavior?